Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad you're here. I'm always glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. I had to have an emergency appendectomy last week and am still in the recovery process, the physical recovery process that I thought I would outpace or zip through. But my physical body is really creating a visceral limitation, and I'm surrendering to it, sometimes really well, and other times I'm like, "Come on, you be better, feel better, be faster," but my body won't allow me to do that, and it was this sacred rite of passage, it feels like, and I don't wanna go in depth too much today. I showed up for the full moon ceremony that I offered last week after my appendectomy, because I wanted to, and I wanted to be in that space and in community. So thank you all for who showed up, for showing up, whether it was during or after, and also holding sweet space for me and grace because of where I was, and then also some technical glitches that I'm working through ironing out. So it was really helpful. But I'll talk more about my appendectomy and all of these incredibly spiritual awakening and activating moments that I've had through that. But today, one of the things that I really want to focus on and offer to you all, especially through the midpoint of this year as a reminder and also with some practical guidance through this, is really recognizing how sacred our body, our physical body is as a tuning fork. And this has been happening for me, and I suspect for many of you for a while now, but it's like the language is catching up to the visceral experience of what is happening. But looking at recognizing how incredibly attuned or unattuned, I don't think unattuned is a word, but I'm going to use it as my own, how tuned in or tuned out, aligned, resonant, cohesive, incohesive your physical body is as a tuning fork, a temperature gauge, an ability, a, a modality as sacred discernment and energetic integrity, and how paramount that is right now as we shift, as we evolve through these decomposing infrastructures and moving into new levels of reality. And we are going through this tremendous portal or rite of passage. And I say that without saying maybe we're going through this, or I think like it is happening. I feel it. The shifts are real and visceral and they're physical, but they're also this energetic, sacred experience. And the most sacred thing that we can do right now, that I can do, that you can do, is to honor what feels true in your field. Honor what feels true in your field. And the three checkpoints that I want to note, and I'm going to dive into them a little bit. Each one is recognizing that your discernment is sacred. The next one is that your energetic boundaries must be recalibrated again and again and again, and that your body is a tuning fork. And as I go through each of these, I'm going to offer you a mantra to go with each one, and then a couple of practices to attune and anchor this in. We're in this moment where frequency is currency. And a couple of years ago, where and maybe longer than that, I guess, I don't know time wise how to articulate this, but I've always known that the next frontier is the intangible, our extrasensory abilities. So, as my gifts, my intuition, and the frequency of communicating intuition, psychic abilities, mediumship, when that stuff started coming online 12 years ago, and it was before that because it was coming online in a very backwards and dark way before it came through as piercing signal and light. But as it was coming online and the light was coming through and the fine tuning of my energy field and frequency intuitively, psychically, I always had this knowing within me that that growth and awareness was real. It was in the field, and that why didn't we all talk about psychic gifts, intuition, and as a real thing? And thankfully today there's so much more mainstream discussion of this, scientific studies, which have gone on for a long time, mind you. I mean, and I can always, we can refer back to things like, the agencies in the government using people for precognition or remote viewing. All of that stuff has been made more mainstream if you know where to look for it, where they've used psychic gifts and abilities and intuitive abilities since World War II. So it's been validated through some pretty gnarly studies and amazing studies and used in a multitude of ways, even as warfare, our psychic gifts. But it gets really like poo-pooed by the mainstream. And my husband and I were watching this TV show, and one of the women in there is, of course, like a thriller detective show. But one of the women in the group of detectives was talking a little bit about her intuition, or I just have a hunch, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's this number. So she referenced numerology. She referenced a handful of things. And the head detective says, listen, you can believe what you want to believe, but I don't want you to do anything that would jeopardize this investigation and it not hold up in court. So you know, I believe you, you do what you're doing, but please, this needs to be serious because it will jeopardize us in court. And, I was just laughing at that because that's really still how a lot of mainstream feels. And I've worked with enough people in incredible positions of what I would say would be of influence or power or authority throughout my career as an intuitive to know that people utilize intuition, want to develop and strengthen it and understand it and integrate it into who they are and what they do personally, professionally, but they will not share it on the mainstream stage. It's like for many years, I was the ace in somebody's back pocket, and they would never share with their colleagues that they went to a psychic, so to speak. So it's like, I love that these things are evolving. But as we come back to this podcast and this episode and in this space where we are all resonant and in communion with this clarity and this knowing that we have, is that our energy is a currency. Our frequency is a currency, and it is the most vital resource we have. And in this episode, I'm offering some frequency refinement. We're not, and when we do frequency refinement, which is about energetic boundaries and clarity and sovereignty, it's not about protection or blocking out. What we are doing and what I'm sharing with you is us learning to hold our signal, hold our frequency so precisely that anything incoherent or out of attunement with our frequency simply won't stick. And allow that to be true in your field, that your frequency field and your signal is so strong that all of the things that are not aligned in your field just simply either don't show up or they gently and organically fall away. And I'm not a Pollyanna in the sense that I know the stronger my energy field gets and my point of attraction and frequency field, there are interpersonal challenges, feelings, emotions involved. I'm changing, so the way I communicate or engage changes, and that is not always easy. So It's not that just I'm floating through and I'm attuned and it's everything is idyllic, but also that I have the strength and the clarity and the ability to also show up with love. And what that makes me think about is saying to myself, what would love do? And I love it when I hear somebody say that because I've heard that is not originated from me by any means, but I've heard it multiple times. What would love do? What would love do right now? And that's deep to think about, but maybe you use that as you think about the points that we're going to discuss. So, discernment, your discernment becoming sacred. And if you'd like a mantra with that, the one that comes to mind is if it dulls my field, it doesn't belong. If it dulls my field, it doesn't belong. Discernment is not about judgment, it's about this resonant recognition. We've been conditioned and trained to override our felt knowing in favor of logic, social obligation, politeness. But our inner field knows before the mind does. And think back to when you had an inner knowing, not just a gut instinct, but a knowing like, well, I don't think I should do this, or this doesn't feel right, but you know what? I should. No, it's the nice thing to do, and we deny and push aside. And then we show up and do it. And that knowing is like screaming. And it's like, you know what? I did it. And maybe I'm okay, but you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that again. And then for me, I know me, I just bang my head against the wall. I'll do it again 10 times until I'm brought to my knees. Right. And today it's not like that anymore. Like the head banging, the tire kicking, I'm just choosing not to tire kick and head bang when the inner transmission, when something dulls my field, I recognize it doesn't belong. And that's when I ask for divine forces to help me, to give me the courage, the language, and the love, but the strength of my love and light to respond or to disengage. And the dullness in your energy field can show up like a subtle fatigue after a conversation, a heaviness in your physical body. Sometimes I will feel that heaviness behind my eyes. Like my eyes will actually be a little bit burny and heavy. And this takes awareness, being aware of the physical body, and or the actual vitality or lack thereof. So it's really listening to your temperature gauge. It can be like a contraction in your gut. A lot of times for me, it's a gut visceral reaction like, "Ugh, no," or, "Oh my gosh, yes," you know? And so that's really loud and drastic. But check your temperature gauge as far as, "Oh, that was exhausting," or, "Oh, wow, I'm just kinda drained," or feeling heaviness in the physical body, the shoulder, the jaw, the eyes. The shoulders and the clavicle tend to be a really good calibration point for me. So is my C-spine, my neck. But the eyes are one that you might not go to, like the kind of a blurriness in your vision, a burning in your eyes, or a heaviness like in your eyelids or your eyes. I think that's a really incredibly intuitive and visceral gauge. So pay attention in those areas and know that these aren't just feelings, they're frequency cues from your biofield. Learning to trust them immediately and on cue. And again, this takes practice. It takes this kind of repetition of awareness and commitment to practicing it. The second point is energetic boundaries. Your energetic boundaries must, big word, right? Be recalibrated. And I get that. And we've talked about that a lot. I've shared that a lot. I've communicated multiple ways to be clear in your energy field. But this isn't about armor or defense or psychic walls. It's about stability. And the question is not, how do I protect myself? It's how do I become so attuned to my own signal that any distortion cannot stay or live here, is not viable. How do I become so attuned to my pure tone, my signal, that distortion does not and cannot live here? A mantra to go with this is I hold my signal. I do not shrink, and I do not leak. I hold my signal. I do not shrink, and I do not leak. And this came to me when I was thinking about and attuning to this podcast, and what I wanted to share today is that my signal holds. It's stable, it's strong. But I thought about how I can contract or shrink. And a lot of times I have contracted or shrunk to meet someone else's energy field or their level because I don't want to overpower, dominate, outshine, uh, be insensitive, however my rational brain might interpret that. But the other one is I do not leak, meaning my energy field. When I say this, I think of leaky gut, but you know how taking care of our gut is also helping with our brain and all of the chemicals in our body, endorphins and many other things. The gut biome is so important, but I think about if our gut health isn't well, it can affect mental health and a multitude of other things in the physiology and biology of our body and our well-being. But not leaking or seeping energy from your energy field, like keeping it fluid and contained. And this is about not, again, not setting up a clear protective boundary. It's not about repelling anything, but it's about resonating so dang clearly that any dissonance in your field self deflects. Like you don't even have to do the work. It's like the person just doesn't come up and talk to you. And it's again, this is not about judgment of yourself or other people or your attitudes and rationality. It is about your own frequency field. And some of the things that are a lot of the things maybe that I'm sharing today, if interpreted through the eyes of the ego, would feel very selfish and self-centered, but it's not. It's about the bigger self coming through and also allowing other people to feel their own frequencies more clearly and attune to their frequencies. I mean, it has a ripple effect. The stronger our fields get, your field, my field gets, the stronger the signal we collectively send out. I'm thinking about the full moon ceremony I did the other night, and we had people from all over the world. And like, what was so cool about that, not only the gathering, it was like I could see these little dots light up in my mind's eye across the globe, and how we were anchoring in a sacred grid together, like this beautiful, sacredly geometric, divine grid. And that's what this is like. Full moon, new moon ceremony or not, community gathering or not, the stronger your signal is, my signal is, the more that we're like beaming me up, Scotty, like you're beaming the energy up and we're connected. And while I may sound like a science fiction movie right now, this is so much what I see in the energy field. I mean, I can see people's lights. I've been able to do that for a long time, and I've shared this with y'all. Like, I'm not nosy in people's energy fields when I'm not psychically on working, like, in one to one and doing what I do and holding space and showing up. I'm not out in the world reading people. I'm really focused on my own energy field and what I'm emitting and doing. But that does not preclude me from not being able to read and see frequencies and lights. And now I can't not see those anymore, and it doesn't come through a lens of judgment, like, "Oh, your light's really bright and yours isn't," because it's not, because that is not the way it is. It's more like all these pings of light, and the lighter lights come closer and the dimmer lights don't really like flock to my energy field as much. And again, it's not separation, it's refinement, energetic refinement and attunement. So remember, this is about resonating so clearly that dissonance will basically deselect out of your field. The third point is your body as a tuning fork. And as more of us humans begin to realize what we've already really deeply known, that our physical body is not something to fix. It's this frequency reader. It's a bio instrument. And right now it is tuning faster than our minds can process. And have felt that and feel that so viscerally and strangely, that it's like my body is changing and morphing physiologically, biologically. I mean, for goodness sakes, my appendix was carrying layers of toxins and it had been flaring for a little bit. And I kept being like, okay, it's going to be fine. And then it basically just, you know, spazzed out and forced me into the emergency room. Um, but it was like as soon as that was removed, my physical body is sore and really kind of refining and fine-tuning and shedding, but it was like a whole like a physical set of toxins was removed from my body that I couldn't metabolize or digest. And I have this sacred gratitude for it, and also a massively sacred gratitude for my clinical team and the hospital staff, because I was triaged so beautifully and effectively, and not only from a clinical perspective, but from a bedside manner perspective. It was the most lovely, horrible experience that I could have had. Like, it was best outcome possible, but from the time I got to the ER early in the morning until post-op, and that was all in the same day, every single person I met communicated well, talked to me like a person and a patient, nurtured and took care of me, and gave me the correct medical intervention that was necessary. And I was amazed by it and overwhelmed with appreciation and the care that I received, the level of care, but also the level of humanity that I received. And I feel like that is an attribute to my signal being strong. A guiding mantra to go with the body, your body as a tuning fork, is my body is calibrated for coherence. It only harmonizes with truth. My body is calibrated for coherence. It only harmonizes with truth. And I've been using the word true a lot lately, because the experience that I've been walking through has been strange, exhaustive, weird, visceral. It's been this incubation stage that is very hard to articulate, but it's like, but I feel so true. Like, I feel so true. It's the only word I have to attune to. So the mantra again is my body is calibrated to coherence. It only harmonizes with truth. And as you're testing your tuning fork, obviously pay attention to how you physically feel. Ooh, I'm getting, some crunchiness in my lower back. Or, man, my knee is really bothering me. I mean, really pay attention to where you're holding stress and pain or disease if you're physically challenged with something right now. But another way to really feel deeper into your fascia is your breath, the temperature of your skin. Sometimes, like, I mean, all hormones aside and things like that, I will be somewhere and I will literally like get hot. And sometimes, yes, it can totally be hormones. But when I am in a space or a place that may not feel resonant with me, my body will like it will be like it's on fire. And again, sometimes, yes, it is hormonal type stuff, but I actually just had my hormones checked and they're all perfectly in line. And I'm not taking any hormonal supplementation, and I'm 44, which I 2, 3 years ago, my hormones were so out of whack, and I had some intervention around that, and it was synthetic, and it kinda got me through. But I had my hormones tested recently, and I'm not on anything except for supplements and nutrition and then my own energetic practices, but my hormones were, like, so in line. I was like, "This is kinda weird. This is a miracle." Like, "Whoa." So, lately when, my temperature gauge is off, I don't it's not hormonal, like, it's literally environmental and my tuning fork giving me a signal. So you can also do things like asking your body, does this environment expand me? Or does this experience contract me? Do I feel fluid and expansive and open, joyful, happy, safe? But does it expand me? Or am I having to hide, to shirk, to bite my tongue? Am I salty? Am I crunchy? However, that contraction may be showing up for you. The other gauge, and I've shared this before, especially with mediumship and mediumship development, is is this mine? Like you do a quick check in. Is this mine? And immediately your body, your mind, I know for me, is this mine? If I remember to say that, and it's just remembering to ask the question to your higher self, to your innate self, your center, your divine note, is this mine? I immediately get a yes or no before the question is fully articulated in my mind's eye. And you trust the yes or the no. And if it's yes, that it's your stuff that feels joyful and expansive or it feels contracting. If the answer is yes, that it is yours, then guess what? Good news is you can breathe, you can reset, you can reattune, you can process. You have the data to know, okay, I got a little bit of realignment to do. But if the answer is no, a quick hard no, then you're like, whoop, there's a leak in my energy field. This needs to be recalibrated through me quickly. And I'm going to give you all a couple of practices that will help with this that are swift and easy and they work. And they're kind of a little mind blowing when you use them because they are for me. The first practice is they're simple, but the first one is like a field integrity sweep. Let's call it that. And this is to clear lingering distortions and refine your resonance, essentially. All you have to do is close your eyes and just take a beat, right? Close your eyes, take a beat, and you can either say out loud or you can say it internally. Show me what does not belong in my field. And as you say that with your eyes closed, you just wait for a moment or two or a minute until an image, a feeling, a word, a face arises in your energy field. Show me what does not belong in my field. And I will tell you for me, when I practice this, I don't have to wait very long. Like literally, I will say it and boom, it's there. Like I did it this morning and boom, a face appeared. And that's why I said, add in a face or a feeling or a word, whatever shows up for you, a song. I mean, sometimes we have to interpret the language of our intuition. And it's your intuition, so it has a unique language. But whenever that response arises for whatever does not belong in your field, the response to that is, I release this frequency with neutrality and love. I reclaim my divine tone. So show me what doesn't belong in my field, wait for the response, and the response may disarm you or startle you or break your freaking heart. The answer I got this morning broke my heart for a minute, but I already knew it. I knew it in my gut, right? I knew it in my center. And then instead of taking some kind of external action or doing something or picking up the phone, I said, I release this frequency with neutrality and love. I reclaim my divine tone. And then after you are finished with that, you just take a very audible, visceral exhalation and visualize your energy field zipping back up into coherence, like a bunch of blinking lights up your spine or your energy field. So you zip your energy field back up, and then you kind of trust, not kind of, you trust, I trust, we trust that the conversations, intuitive insights to handle situations, people, places, experiences will innately come to you in divine right timing. But repeating this sometimes before maybe a meeting or you engage with somebody or before you go to the darn grocery store, like use it, remember to use it and use it over and over. Second practice, and this is what I call the tuning fork breath, is this is about using your breath as a frequency reset. And this is so easy. And I've been doing this a lot lately. And I'm kind of like, it's like my new favorite thing. I love it. And it feels really, really good. What I do is I inhale very deeply through my nose for 4 seconds, like a 4, 5 second inhale. So I deeply inhale and then I hold it for about 4 or 5 counts, 4 or 5 seconds. And as I go to exhale, I open my mouth and I tone. I hum or I sigh or I make a vowel sound. So it's like I inhale and hold, and then I open my mouth and I go, I could have kept doing that. And I really, I feel like I like, and when I do it, a lot of times I'll put my hand on my breastplate, my heart, my sternum, and feel the vibration in my body. And then I repeat it 3 times to center my signal, my frequency. But I tell you what, this like humming, like, uh, or hey, whatever comes to me, like it's a vibration in my body and I feel it in my hand because I put my hand on my heart. But it's like the more I do it, the more clear and soothed and toned I feel. So I encourage you all to practice that and see what happens as you start to practice and repeat these couple of practices and attune your field. And let me know if it's working for you or if you like it or if you have your own take or spin on these things. I mean, these are what has been really working for me. And just remember that the most sacred thing that you can do right now is to honor what feels true in your field. And I know sometimes it is like pristine and clear, and other times it's awkward and uncomfortable. but it's like undeniable, right? It's true. And remember that this is not about proof, proving to yourself, proving to anyone else. This is sacred. You don't need permission. Your discernment is not separation, it's your frequency stewardship. And when you hold your signal, you create the conditions for truth to emerge. So have a practice. Let me know how this lands. Thank you all for joining me. Be well.